Welcome to Meeple, uniting players around the world. A 30-minute exploration of PJ and Gareth's board game experiences from across both sides of the Atlantic. Each episode they share their thoughts and opinions on the world of board games, including their favourite themes, games, hot topics, and much, much more. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 96 of Meeple. This week it's Meeples in the USA. And PJ, I think for the first time, I may be mistaken, has chosen not to be with us. He's got other things to do, which makes a change because it's usually me. But we have Kristen and Laura with us to talk about all things gaming in the USA. Hello, Kristen.
Hi there. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us. And hi, Laura.
Sure.
Hello.
Would you like to introduce yourselves, a bit about what you do, maybe your Instagram handle as well?
Sure. So I'm Kristen Mott. My Instagram handle is at family.boardgaming. And I'm a board game designer, mostly family weight games. And I'm starting to get into a little bit more medium weight games that I'm designing. I love it. I've been doing that 4 to 5 years now. And on my Instagram handle, I typically just post about things that we're playing. I'm not really doing reviews or anything like that anymore. Just trying to, I don't know. I just like posting.
Share the world of board games.
Yeah, I like interacting with people in the community. So that's what I use Instagram for.
Awesome. And Laura?
I am obsessed with board games on Instagram. I'm on TikTok and Facebook as well, but do like minimal there. I'm primarily on Instagram, and I am doing all kinds of stuff because I have little kids who like board games, and my husband and I also play board games. We're playing from kids games all the way up to like heavy Euros and things like that. So I share what we're playing, and I also do some reviews and things like that. So that's what I do.
That's amazing. And I think we'll get into the board game designs later, Kristen, and what you've been designing.
Sure.
But so you both met PJ.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So that's good. And you've met him at conventions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But what actually got you into the board game hobby? What was your first game? How did you get into the modern world of board games?
Ooh, well, for me, it was during COVID, and I had started my oldest, he was 6 at the time, and he wanted to just start playing games for whatever reason. We found all the things that we had on our shelves. We played Candyland, we played Monopoly, everything that we had, because we were not into games at all. And so that was what we had. And he wanted to start playing, and I was like, okay, so we played a game every night. And then he found this game. This sort of leads into my first game, I suppose. He found this game on our shelf called Dicey Peaks. That's an older Calliope game, has a big Yeti on the cover. And he wanted to play that. I was like, all right. So we learned it and we played it. And he was 6 at the time. And he was playing it, and I could see that he was making all these decisions, and he was enjoying it and thinking about what he had to do on his next turn. And I thought, this is pretty awesome. And so I thought I wanted to sort of start using games as in our homeschool, because we homeschool our kids. And so I did. And then I started designing games for my kids, and it just sort of snowballed from there, because then my husband and I started looking into games for us that we could play, and it would just never looked back. Now we have way too many games, and kids games, family games, everything.
I know that feeling. What game would you typically play with your partner? What sort of games?
He really likes heavier games. When he goes shopping for board games, he has to actually physically pick up the box and feel how heavy it is.
Heavier
and
games.
if it is not heavy enough, one of his favorites.
Can I do a workout with this?
Yeah,
right. Yeah. And if he picks one up and he's like, well, it's too light, I don't know, can't play that one. He really likes Scythe and Tapestry, and he'll play any Stonemaier game.
Yeah, cool.
But I really like puzzly. I really like Dice Hospital, but we both love Lost Ruins of Arnak. That's one of our favorites to play together. So yeah.
Awesome. And then Laura, everything. What got you into gaming? Or how did you get into board gaming?
I have always loved games. So I remember when I was a kid, we had all the typical Monopoly Boggle, Candyland, all that kind of stuff. But I also played games which were also common, easily accessible at the time, Rook and Millborn and other card games that were, not quite the typical ones that you would think of. And I always loved playing, but I always had a horrible attitude when I lost. And my family, I don't think, really liked playing with me much. And you know what? It's understandable because the struggle was real. And now I'm getting it back tenfold with my own children, but that's another story for another day. No. So my husband and I, he actually saw some ad for Return to Dark Tower.
Okay.
When it was coming back out, and he decided to back it. I had never heard, at least as far as I was aware of, I never had heard of crowdfunding games. I, was not at all aware of, just the depth of modern gaming as it is today. The, most recent game I had, the newest game I had probably played at the time was Ticket to Ride and Settlers of Catan, but that was back when I was in college and grad school, so that was quite a while ago at this point. And so it comes in, I think, right before COVID hit, or something really close to that time frame. And we played it, and I loved it. And he loved it too, and that kind of kickstarted us back into, okay, we want to share this together and really dive deeper into it. Because at that point, stuck home with little kids during COVID. And it really became a lifeline for us. We started playing digitally. We played Gloomhaven with friends from Chicago. We played through the whole entire thing. Through COVID, and during that time we also started finding other games. So Rolling Heights was the next one that I found. Danny Standring influenced me. She was the first person in the world of the board gaming community online that I found and watched, and I ordered that, and immediately we were both like, we love this game, this is amazing. And that is what introduced me to the Instagram board game community, and how I found that it even existed, because I literally had no idea, not a single clue, and the rest is
history.
Life has changed dramatically in the past year and a half or so.
I think that reminds me, because I think I got in similar to you, Kirsten. Our kids are about 4 and 6, and they have far too much time on a device. So I'd been into gaming like you, Laura, from early childhood. And a little bit of D&D, maybe Talisman, Games Workshop kind of thing. And those were let's get a couple of games. And then suddenly you realise just what's out there. And we picked up Lords of Waterdeep, and my wife's not a gamer. But we sat down, did some research, seems good for 2-player. And now, we are 12 years later, I think it is roughly. And, the Instagram community, talking like this to fellow gamers around the world is, it's so refreshing, I guess, just to talk to other people about a similar hobby and a similar passion. So, it is. It just, you don't think really, I guess, from a board game perspective, getting into it and unlocking these kind of opportunities, and what it's brought to us all through friends and family and, globally. What was your... So we said you've met PJ and you've met him at gaming conventions. What's your first gaming convention? How soon into hobby did you start going out to games convention, and where was it?
So we started gaming during the pandemic, 2020. And then I think Origins 2021 was our first actual convention, because everybody still had to wear masks, the whole thing. They were checking for vaccination records and stuff. But Origins 2021 I think was my first, and it was great. And at that time too, there weren't very many people there, so it was very you could move around. Of course, Origins is different than Gen Con anyway, as far as crowds, but it was pretty low crowds, and we really enjoyed it. It was our first one, and just, walking up and down the vendor hall and just seeing everything that was available. It just sort of blows your mind the first time that you see it all. It's like, what? This is all here. It's crazy.
And had you been to any events like that in any other hobbies? Was that the first time you've been to kind of a convention?
Yeah, no, I had never been to a convention for anything else. But I went and I was hooked. It's like, of course, these are my people. This is where I belong.
These are my people. Yeah.
So yeah,
it does feel like that. It does.
I felt like I fit in finally.
Yeah, definitely. I think the first UK Games Expo after COVID was similar. It was half the size. Everyone was in masks, but it's just great to get back with people where you may have thought at one point, would this ever happen again?
Right. Oh yeah.
So that was really good. What about you, Laura? Which conventions have you been to or do you go to?
It's crazy to think that last year was my first convention.
Okay.
I went to Geekway to the West for the first time, and that's like 15 minutes down the road from me. But we didn't even know about it. We found out from my husband's coworker at the time, who doesn't even live in the area anymore, but they were flying in for it, and we were like, oh, a board game convention. We've got to check this out. And this is before I had my Instagram account. And we went, and I was like, oh my gosh, we played 17 games in one weekend. This is amazing.
Good work, yeah.
And Geekway is small. Like, compared to these other, like, Origins, Gen Con, Geekway is small. It has, 2,000 people there, maybe? Yeah. It is very much about playing games. There is a small vendor hall, but it is a drop in the bucket of Origins, PAX U, Gen Con. So, you are there to play games and hang out with people and maybe do a little bit of other things, but and I loved it. So we went from that to then Gen Con. And I went to Gen Con. I had my Instagram account last year for, I think it was 6 days before I went to Gen Con. And somehow PJ and I have different memories of who shared my account. I don't know who it was. I don't know how it happened, but somehow PJ heard about me and thought I was someone to know. Even though I had literally just oh yes, I am.
Yes,
but
I am.
Not because I was anything at the time. I mean, I was brand spanking new. Had no intentions of doing anything big, and just it snowballed. So he made me run around Gen Con for about 30 minutes trying to find him. He kept moving. He was literally moving through the vendor hall, and if you've been to Gen Con, you know that it's like super gigantic and overwhelming, and he literally would tell me where he was, and then I'd show up and I'd be looking around and I'd be like, I don't see PJ anywhere around here. And so I finally tracked him down and then got to play games with him and some other people later that night, and met a couple other content creators, and so that was my first two were teeny tiny Geekway and then gigantic Gen Con. Very different experiences, but both amazing, on their own. So I'm still kind of a newbie at the
I think
world
I met you for the first time at PAX last year, right? Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that it was only last year, because I feel it really, this community really feels like this is my community. These are my friends. Like, I have seen, I've now been with Kristen in person 3 times now. I mean,
think so, yeah. 3 or 4.
And same with PJ. So like it feels like my family, and it's become such a gigantic part of my life that it is crazy to think that it's been just a little over 1 year that I've even been a part of it. So yeah, it's nuts. In the best way possible.
Yeah, I think certainly through COVID, the amount of connections that I made through that, chatting on DMs, and we all met at UK Games Expo, and now I see these people sometimes like, at least once a month. We're meeting up for small game groups. And they're lifelong friends. That's they are, like you said earlier, they are our people, and it's really refreshing hanging out with people like that. What's the best thing about going to convention? Maybe Kristen as a designer.
I mean, I love the atmosphere of conventions, although I'm also an introvert, and so I love being there. I love being with the people, but at the end of every day, I have to like crawl into my dark corner and be alone and just recharge. But the best thing is the people. I always still try to make time to play games with friends, even though I end up spending a lot of time in meetings and running around trying to pitch my games and things like that, which I love to do that too. But just the people. I mean, in general, that's the best thing about conventions. That's hands down.
Laura, similar?
Yeah, I'm not going to say the same thing just because you said it perfectly.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I think that's what most people think
so.
though.
Yeah.
So I'll say something different, and that is, it is so cool to me. Do you know when you're like up in an airplane and you're looking down at the earth and you realize how tiny you are? Going into a place like Gen Con, you walk in, and even when you think maybe the people who've been in the gaming industry for years don't feel this way, but I feel like, wow, there's so much I didn't know was going to be here. I have never seen before. There are so many new ideas or people coming up with just stories or worlds or, new types of gameplay or new art, or, there's just, you see that you are so tiny and that there is so much amazing creativity in the world. And I love that feeling of being in awe of the people around me and honestly feeling like, look at all of the amazing things in this world. There are a lot of times where I don't feel that way at all in life, and it's very easy to get, overwhelmed by the things that aren't so great or nice or pretty and whatnot. And so to go to a place where not only are you surrounded by amazing people, you're surrounded by beauty and creativity, and it's just the best. It's the best feeling to me.
That's such an excellent point.
Awesome point. And those things I've been to cons, there's always so much to see, and these are like not even that big cons. So I can't imagine, like, I've not been to, we said earlier, I haven't been to Essen, I haven't been to Gen Con, and those are huge. To try and to take it all in and see it all, you're going to miss something along the way. But there's just, as I say, there's so much to see and do. That 4 days is never enough. And I did the UKGE in 1 day, and I think PJ did Gen Con in a day.
Yeah.
So it's even harder to fit all of that in. So that's really well explained. Really good view. So Laura, so you started Instagram maybe 18 months ago. How did you go? Did you think you were going to get into content creation?
It was 13 months ago.
13 months ago.
I had no idea. I'm like the parent who's like, my child is 13 months old. They're not one. They're 13 months old.
You're so proud.
No, I had no idea. I had started posting on my personal page because, we were playing games and loving them and thinking they're so cool. And, how else are people going to know about it unless you're sharing it? So I started sharing it, and people were starting to respond to it, and these are people that I haven't heard from in literally at least 1 or 2 decades.
Yeah.
And I was shocked at the number of people who started responding, and I thought, well, instead of posting on my personal page every day, I'm just going to go ahead and start an Instagram page just dedicated to this. And so that's how that started 13 months ago, and probably some days, who knows. And yeah, it just really snowballed from there. I had no idea that that people would want to follow me. I had no concept of being a content creator whatsoever. I was just creating to share and in hopes of building connections and maybe meeting a couple new people. And now I've met hundreds of new people, and it's been the best thing ever.
Amazing. And then, do you do reviews, or what's your primary focus on content? Is it just posting to Instagram, or do you do reviews on Instagram, or do you just share what you're playing?
It started as me sharing what I was playing, and I still do that. I have started receiving review copies, and so that has sort of altered my format some. And so yeah, I do reviews. I don't do one thing because again, I have little children that are 5 and almost 7, and my youngest especially loves to play games every day. The first thing he asks is, will I play a game with him? And it's nonstop all day long, every day. No amount of games is enough. And so I'm playing 5-year-old games. But then my husband and I really like heavy games and everything in between. And so, I'm posting some about kids games. I'm posting some about good kids games that parents will enjoy that aren't, the ones that get monotonous and boring all the time. And then I'm also posting about other things. I am posting about Kickstarters that are coming up and games that are being released. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of I'm an eclectic person, and so my Instagram looks eclectic because it just reflects me, I guess.
So, obsessed with board games, people need to follow, if they haven't followed already, within the last 13 months.
Yes.
And then
the hours.
And the hours.
Yeah.
And then, so Kristen, you've gone from gamer, but more into the board game design.
Yeah.
What was the journey there?
So when I started my account, which I think was in March of 21, I think. So I started it because I wanted to know more about the world of kids' board games, because I was really interested in how the educational quality of some of these games, how we could utilize them in our homeschool. And so that's really why I started the account. I was going to research a bunch of stuff and just see what was out there. And then, as my husband and I got more into games, I was following different people and different content creators and seeing the plethora of what was actually out there and available. And we started playing games. So then I started posting what my husband and I were playing and stuff that I did with my kids. For a little while, I kind of got into reviews a little bit. I've had some smaller publishers send me stuff for reviews, but I don't really do that anymore. Mostly, I don't really have the time for it, but I also feel like it's a little bit of a conflict of interest. It's if I'm a designer, I don't really want to be reviewing other people's games in a public format. So I don't really do that. And now I just really post about what we're playing as a family, what my husband and I are playing. And then I use it a little bit to let people know about my designs that are coming out and things like that. But it's more for fun because I like to just, connect with the people in the industry and in the board gaming community. Gamers of all kinds.
So
one thing about Kristen is that she's a very humble person, and she would never say that, but I will say it for her because I've met her enough to know she's a very humble person. So she's not using her Instagram to hey everybody, look at this game. I'm gonna shoot with it 24/7, but she's got great games already out there. She's got great games coming, and so no one should sleep on her, first of all. And second of all, I want to say that is a reflection of who she is. It's not because she's not putting out good stuff. It's not because it's not worth your time or that she's not proud of it. It's just she's the quality,
thank
humble,
you, Laura.
real deal.
And that's so nice of you to say.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you kindly sent us a copy of Shark's think about 6 months ago. So that's a copy in the UK, and we played that as a family. And you can see that definitely works, you know, the family-oriented games. But you've got a game going live this Tuesday?
Mm-hmm.
Which
Yeah,
is going to be Insectarium. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? Because you should.
Sure, I'll tell you. Yeah, so it's going live on Tuesday. It's published by Snowbright Studios. And it's just a nice family weight puzzle game where you are pinning insect specimens into your display board, something like what you would find in a museum. And so the idea is you want to have the most precisely laid out board that's going to be put into the main hall of the insectarium. And so it's got a little bit of drafting, it's got a little bit of special abilities, and it's only 9 turns. And so you're filling your 3x3 grid with these insect specimens, and you get to decide how you're going to score them. So based on the tokens that you're drawing, you get to decide how you're going to score each row and column. There's also another way to score bonus points and bonus abilities within the game. But it plays in about a half hour. It's that type of game is sort of the game that I like to play as a gamer, where it's very puzzly. You're making your board and you have this nice thing to show for it when you're done. But yes, it's going to be on Kickstarter on Tuesday. It's there's also going to be a deluxe component add-on, which I have never had for one of my games before. I'm so excited. It's going to come with little bug minis and these resin tokens. So
I'm just looking at the artwork is stunning. I mean, it really thematically, that pinning insects into your frame, it is beautiful.
Meg did, the artist, she did an amazing job. And so I got to make a lot of the decisions with Snowbright, which isn't really typical for a designer,
right?
For a designer-publisher relationship. But I got to pick out the artist, and I got to meet with her and tell her sort of exactly what my vision of it was. And we wanted it to look like, my original vision for it was to look like In the Footsteps of Darwin, kind of that academic style. And so it sort of evolved a little bit from there, but just we wanted it to be sort of muted, but with the insects to have these really bright, vibrant colors that would stand off the cards, and you could see very well.
Yeah, I was just going to say that
I love how it turned out.
The insects really pop off of the cards.
Yeah,
they really stand out. Have you played this, Laura, yet? Or have you?
I have. I got to learn it from the designer herself.
I made Laura play it in Origin.
I made Laura.
Yeah.
Oh, you asked, and I said yes, please. And it is puzzly and fun and kind of cozy. I have a review copy, and I'm really excited to try it with my kiddo.
Okay.
I'm wondering how it's going to play with him, and I think it's going to go well. I'm very excited.
Oh, I hope so. I'm so
interested
to hear.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned about the putting it in the museum. It does look just like it looks a lot like when you go into a museum and there are displays of insects. It is the muted background so that they just kind of pop off of them. Yeah. And I don't know why I hadn't put that together. I mean, that seems so obvious, but yeah.
Yeah, so an insectarium is technically a museum of live insects, but I wanted it to, so these are specimens that have already been deceased and you're pitting them on your board, but I wanted it to be like a display that you're creating for a hall or something inside that museum. So
stunning. Yeah. Cannot wait to hear more. So we'll put the link into the podcast as well, and of course
thank you.
On Tuesday we'll make sure that it covers all the socials. How many other games, how much time do you spend designing games? And how many have you got in your head or on paper churning over at the moment?
So currently I have 3 that are on the market. And then I have 3 that have been signed that aren't out quite yet, Insectarium being one of them.
Right.
And then I have a little small box game called Prowl, which is about tigers. It's a little area control game about tigers marking their territories. That's with Envyborn Games that are doing like the line of small box game, tiny games. I can't remember what he calls it. And then another bigger game that I have that's a co-design with Adrian Adamescu. It's right now it's called Dragon Warriors. I don't know that that's going to be the final title or anything, but that should come to Kickstarter in 2025. And then I have probably 6 to 8 that I'm currently working on that are either in my head or I'm working on with a co-designer, and it's, projects are always in process.
Listen, when you meet up with Kristen at a convention and you say, hey, do you have one of your prototypes with you? She'll be like, only if you really want to play. And then she'll pull, it turns out she's got like 6 shoved in her backpack.
The rucksack. Yeah.
And so you're like, oh my goodness, you are the treasure trove of all of the upcoming goodness. Yeah, it's pretty great.
You never know when you're going to need it or who you're going to meet who might want to see a prototype.
It's the best thing. You're like Mary Poppins pulling out yet another game. How many can fit?
That's right. My endless backpack full of prototypes.
And did you ever think you'd get into game design? Was that just something you just thought with the kids, I'm just going to start making some, I guess, simple games, and it's just grown and grown?
Yeah, I never saw myself in this industry in that way. But yeah, I started making the games for my kids towards the end of the pandemic. And we actually have some friends, local friends. My husband that used to work with, his name's Jordan Goddard, and he's a game designer as well. And I met with him and his wife, and they were really encouraging. I took them just some of the games that I had made for my kids, and they were like, these are pretty good. We should work on this, this, and this. And then you could start showing it to publishers. And I was like, what? Are you okay? And so I did that. And then we started going to conventions, and it just kept going. And then once I started, I feel like I can't stop. Anything that I see in my day-to-day life, I'm like, there's a game there. We could, there's got to be something, some idea that, it could be created from it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, both really good stories about how you've got into different parts of the gaming industry, but you're having a great time as well.
Mm-hmm. I am. I love it.
So, as we get towards the back end of the year, what are your most played games in 2024? So, games you played at conventions or with family? What's been the highlight this year of gaming? Who wants to go first? Kristen.
I can go. That's fine.
Go.
So I just
as everyone grabs their phone looking
up.
for stats. Yeah.
Right?
yeah. I need to check mine now. Hang on. Yeah.
I had to look it up. So our most played game so far this year is Space Base, which we just bought this year actually, but it was
great choice. Ended
up being such a great family game that we've played it with all of our kids, and they can all do it. Even my 6-year-old, for the most part, can play, and my husband and I like it, and so we've played that the most this year.
And it's great as well because you can play a lot of players because you've got the expansion packs as well, so you actually get quite a few people around, and because it's so quick, it's pretty simultaneous. And it's
easy to teach and easy to learn, and so it's a great game.
It's good on the table as well. Good colours. Laura, have you had time to do your stats check?
I have. I didn't need to know the first one. Technically, the first two. I play a lot on Board Game Arena. And some people in this community refer to me as the Forest Shuffle Queen. And really, I dubbed myself that, and it's mostly just a joke. Based on how much I play, not how much I win, contrary to what some people want to say. But I have played this year 139 games of Shuffle.
I don't think I own a game I've played that many for.
Ridiculous. I literally have a bunch going on BGA at one time. And so that's base game plus the Alpine expansion. And I don't know if you've noticed, there's a new expansion that has been announced that I may or may not have been checking out. And so, Forest Shuffle. And then, I know.
I'm very impressed.
You know what's really bad is I've never played Forest Shuffle.
Well, would you like to play on BGA?
So I think if you can share, I'll grab your BGA handle
Absolutely.
And then with your 139 games, the Forest Shuffle Queen.
Indie overall, just so you know.
That's a lot of games. You can educate me on how to play Forest Shuffle.
I will gladly,
like a pro. After that, what other games have you got time to play?
The next most played is actually another one on BGA, which is to me just kind of like a filler, is Can't Stop. But the other one that's behind that is Gnar from Pandasaurus. Isn't that Pandasaurus?
I think so.
Yeah. It is such a good game. I love Gnar. I'm like really second guessing myself about who does that now. I love it. I looked at it and I was like, oh, this looks fine. You know, like this will be a fine game. And it is not Panda. It's Bombix.
Pandasaurus do. No, they do publish it.
I think they do it here.
Depends on a
US.
region. Yeah, it's Bombix.
It is such a good game. It's like have either of you played it?
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. The box about that size.
Yeah. Okay,
there's a lot of games.
It's like an engine builder plus an order fulfillment plus like when do you break your engine to do other things? Like it's really interesting. And pretty easy to pick up on. I have one complaint, and it's with the physical copy, and it's the coloring of the like little tokens. But literally, that's the only thing I don't like about that game.
The other thing that annoys me is the scoreboard. The tracker and the tracker for the little
Yeah.
But I call them squids, but I think they're loots, so they're like musical instruments or something. I call them squids.
Yeah.
But it's
fair.
It's a bit fiddly. But the game itself is absolutely.
Oh, it's.
I wouldn't even
great.
picked it up. I think Nick, so Board Game Review UK, taught me it.
Yeah.
And I was like, "This is really, really good." I had a copy within a couple of days. Just and it's good. It's
and
so
it's
small
one I
form.
can just play over and over.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Forest Shuffle to me. Like there's so many possibilities, and just trying to figure out how to do things better the next time and how to play, your hand the best you can and the most efficiently. I really love that kind of puzzly aspect of a game, and so I can just sit there and play it over and over. So
I need to play more on BJ, I think, is my problem.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. Is there a third game?
River Valley Glassworks is my third.
It's one of PJ's games he's been talking
Yeah.
about. I've not played that either.
Yep, it is my
I haven't
third.
played that one yet either.
Man, girl, we've got to get some games going.
I know.
How far away do you two live from each other? Are you a long way away?
About 4.5 hours, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not terrible, but not super close.
Yeah.
It's hard to. In the U.S., I feel like we all live so far away from each other.
I know.
I actually don't live. PJ lives kind of betweenish us, closer to me for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
But even like an hour and a half feels like a very long time sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, River Valley Glassworks is my next one, and I recently got the deluxe copy in person, and I'm so excited to have the little bits are so sparkly.
Yeah, they look nice.
And shiny, and I love them. I love them.
Oh, that's awesome.
So as we go into the darker months of the year and 2024 draws to a close, what stuff have you got lined up? Are you going to any more conventions? Have you got any games that have popped up on maybe the Essen list that you're looking forward to playing? Or is it...
Ooh. That's
Laura
a good
first?
question.
I am headed to PAX U.
Okay, when's that?
That is first or second weekend of December.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Probably need to get that nailed down.
In the next couple of months.
In a few months.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things happening between now and then. But the plan is to go to PAX U, and I was there last year as well. So I'm excited to go again this year now that I know even more people. And I am not, honestly, things have been really crazy the last several weeks, and since we got back from Gen Con, really. I came home with strep and we've had sickness after sickness.
Okay.
So I feel out of the loop as far as like what is coming. So I'm not a very good person to ask that right now. But I'm honestly excited I know that there are people who will be at PAX that I have not met before that I've been talking with online for at least a year now. So I'm very excited to meet more people. That's what I'm excited about.
And PAX U, what's different? There's lots of different PAX. Is that location? I don't know. Okay.
Definitely a location.
Yeah.
I think some PAXs have different focuses.
Yeah.
This one is board gaming focus as far as I'm aware, but other than that, I don't really know the difference.
I think that the other PAX East and West has a lot of a video game focus as well.
Okay, yeah.
PAX U is unplugged, so
unplugged.
it's just
okay, that's the
board
difference.
games.
Just board games.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Obvious. Shouldn't even ask a silly question.
Can tell she's been in the biz longer than me. She's the one that asks the questions.
So, Kristen, have you got anything planned for the rest of the year? Apart from churning out more games and a Kickstarter.
The Kickstarter. And PAX Unplugged, I think, is my next convention that I'm going to. I want to try to go. There's a small convention in Nashville, I believe, in November.
Game Days.
Yes, and I was thinking about trying to maybe go there, but I don't know. We'll see. Our schedule's been crazy too with kids and everything, so I don't know that I'll make it, but I would like to. I love conventions where it's focused on just playing games. Yeah, that's.
There's a Geekway micro mini. Geekway Mini.
I saw that
coming
email
up
this
in
morning.
January,
Yeah.
I think it is. So you can also come out then.
Maybe I will.
That's happening in the next year, though. I'm sorry, that's not on
That's
top.
2025. Yeah, it's
January,
too far away.
Yeah.
I think PJ might have gone to that this year.
Yeah, he did. He
I
did.
think he did, didn't he? Yeah.
I was supposed to because, again, that's literally, it's right here where I live. But I had forgotten. But I did manage to go over and meet him and Katie. And fun fact, we drove out there to meet them and say hi, and it was snowing so badly. the streets were a sheet of ice when we left. I don't even know if they left the hotel the whole weekend because it was the weather was so bad. But we drove out there in the storm and the blizzard just for them because we love them.
That is awesome. You guys definitely seem to have more conventions than we do over here. We've got kind of 3 or 4 biggies, and there are smaller ones, but they're more like 500 people.
Okay.
So they usually sell out really quickly, so you've got to be quick. And there's one I'm in Southampton on the south coast. There's one here, which is about 300, 250. It happens twice a year, but it is just playing games. But when it's that close, we go, well, we'll just meet at my house and at friends and play with our group, and then we'll go somewhere else just more for the scenery and maybe meeting some different gamers. It's good. Amazing.
I love that. I love that. I when everyone came here for Geekway, I was like, I want to have everybody over to my house. And, of course, these are people that some of whom I've talked to for a long time or met in person, like Kristen, and others, they're like, it might be a little odd. I think I'll stick to the convention center. But I do love that because, there's something different about inviting people into your home or going to somebody's home and sharing, a smaller space, and where it translates, you're not just friends online, you're friends, and you're not just friends at conventions, you're friends in real life, I love that you're able to do that with your
really
friends
lucky
there.
In the Southampton group. Actually, a couple of those people was at that, so it's called Shake Battle Roll or something. And 2 years ago, it had a flood mid-con. So it was raining like really bad, and the roof came in. So we went. I popped to the shops, got some like snacks, came back, and I was like, "Why is everyone outside?" And the roof had come in, and so you're thinking it's like a board gamer's nightmare. It's like cardboard,
right?
Oh no!
So I was like, so we went back inside and went, "Well, we're gonna have to go." So we brought some friends back, and then other people we didn't really know but been hanging around all day. But now they've become like solid friends. We see like nearly every week.
Yeah.
And then other Southampton people came from, I put an advert on Instagram, a story that I was selling some games. Some people came in and said, "Oh, can I buy this, and the other?" And it turns out, they're just up the road. I didn't even know. So Instagram,
That's so cool.
it's we've made so many good friends, including like PJ, and we had Cajun Con this year, and PJ's always inviting us over. So at sometime we will come to either Gen Con or Origins, and we'll come and say hello.
Might come crash the party if y'all come over here.
Yeah.
So I can
you guys come to the UK Games Expo. It's
I would love to someday.
Yeah. It's pop in for the day. So I think that's it. I mean, thank you so much, both of you, for joining. I've had an absolute pleasure talking to you, understanding and learning about your journey in the world of board games. 13 months, Laura. I've noted that down as and 5 days and 3 hours. I did look up my history. So I was 23rd of December 2013 was my Instagram account.
Wow.
So I'm like the old man now.
You're a veteran.
It's mad how much, thinking back to the early days when there's hardly any accounts we're doing board games, and it wasn't really like Kickstarter had only just really begun around then. So it was just not the same as it now. The community it's very different. People didn't. Well, I guess there were no DMs, so you didn't really have to chat apart from in the comments. As soon as those DMs opened up and you could chat to people, and obviously you got groups, stories,
that changes everything.
Massively engaging. But haven't quite ventured into TikTok yet. That's a world.
I feel old over there. I feel like a grandma. I'm not saying anything other than I feel old.
Yeah, I keep thinking about it and go, I've got to work out what the format would be.
It just feels very foreign, right? Like it's anything that you have never ventured into before. Takes some adjusting.
Need to adapt more.
I much prefer photographs to video.
Yeah. Which is weird because like Instagram for a while pushing reels, but I was like, no, this just a photo works for me. I don't, I'm quite happy engaging with the content on Instagram. So, PJ didn't turn up. So PJ. There's your first black mark. I've got about 12, but there's your first black mark. Got to figure out what he owes us.
That's right.
I'm sure you guys will see him at some point in the next 6 months anyway, so you can give him a proper telling off. Thank you.
I plan to.
Yeah, you plan to. Your DM, you'll message him in a minute. Where were you?
Yeah.
So, Kristen and Laura, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone who's been listening to the show today. As ever, we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Please subscribe, and as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas. So make sure to leave those in the comments. And don't forget, you can also chat with us both on Instagram at Meeple to Meeple.